They fashion jewelry using turquoise? Guys, that's some of my favorite. Look at it. I love turquoise. I didn't even know that these native nations use the turquoise and silver and they made jewelry out of it. Look, I wore all my turquoise to show you guys. So cool. Well, I kind of got ahead of myself. I was reading this awesome book. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Mrs. Lawson, and I can't wait to get to reading with you today. Let's get started. We are reading lesson 14 today, and we're reading pages 32 through 39. Learning intention for today is we are learning how to determine the main idea of the text and the details that support them. We know we are successful today when we can identify the main idea of the text, identify details that support that main idea, and then put that main idea and key detail together to make a summary. Our foundational skill today is we're taking those Latin roots, but we're adding in some prefixes today too. So let's look at destruct. We've been working with this struct for a little bit, but we know that D means down or to do the opposite. So if you're doing the opposite of build, what would you be doing? Yeah, good job, fourth graders. You would be destroying it. You'd be taking it apart. And that is what destruct means. So using that knowledge, we figured out that destruct or destruction is to take things apart. Another word, what about reconstruct? Re means to do it again. Struct means you're building. So using that knowledge, what would reconstruct mean? Yeah, it might be something that fell apart and you're putting it back together. Good job. Let's do one more. Transcription. Well, I know script is that one we've been working with. Do you remember what it means? Awesome. And we're adding trans, which means across or through. So if you're writing something across, yeah, you're like maybe sending it in writing, you're making something and you're changing it into writing. Good job, fourth graders. You're getting so good at this. So your foundational skill for today is you're going to use the words in a sentence. So from the list or from the words you have, figure out what makes sense in the sentence. You guys got this. So some vocabulary. The first one is a pueblo. A pueblo. Villages that look like apartment buildings because the houses are attached and they're stacked on top of each other. They look kind of like this. There's also tributaries, and these are also called branches, but if we look, there's streams or rivers that flow from a larger river. So this might be the large river, and these are all tributaries breaking off of the river. All right, guys, let's get into this story. We are learning about the Pueblo people today, expert dry land farmers. So, in 1540, a Spanish soldier at the head of a small army rode north from Mexico in search of cities of gold. What he found instead were villages of brown apartments. The clay brick buildings looked like stacked boxes. The Spaniards were reminded of villages back home in Spain, which they called pueblos. Oh, there's a stop sign. Sorry, fourth graders. What details from the text explain what can happen when people of different cultures meet? So we know that the Spanish and the Pueblo people are different cultures. So we're going to see what happens when they meet. This is how the Pueblo people received the name that they are commonly called. The Pueblo once lived all across what is now New Mexico and Arizona, plus parts of southern Utah, southern Colorado, northern Mexico, and western Texas. Now they live mainly in New Mexico. And the first thing I'm noticing here is when the Spanish came, what did they do? says this is how the Pueblo people received the name they are commonly called. So the Spanish actually gave them the name that they're known by. So that's one way that the cultures have influenced each other. Now, there are 19 Pueblo groups in New Mexico. Many of these groups are found along the Rio Grande and its tributaries. One, the Teos Pueblos in Teos, New Mexico, has lived there for about 1,000 years. The groups share their ancestors' lifestyles and religion, but the groups are separate from one another. Some are quite different in their customs. 19 Pueblo communities. Today's Pueblo groups are shown on the map of northern New Mexico. The Hopi people are a Pueblo nation, but they occupy their own reservation in Arizona. Okay, so wow, these pictures are awesome. Look at those. And then down here it says a Zuni Pueblo man in full regalia. Oh, so that I'm making a connection that makes me think of what story, who else wears regalia? Yeah, Windrunner. He wears it during his ceremony. So cool. And then he's wearing his. And this says a ceremonial Laguna Pueblo dance. Another connection. Windrunner does his dance in the story. And then down here we've got all of their reservations in Arizona. Pretty cool. Oh, that's cool. This is a Zuni Pueblo ceremony. All these beautiful girls. They have the pots on their head and all that turquoise. Love it. Okay, life in the desert. What the native nations of the Southwest accomplished is almost hard to believe. Without huge dams to provide irrigation, some of them farmed in the desert. They built cities and thrived in one of the harshest environments in North America. The farming method of the Pueblo peoples, the Pueblos, Zunis, and Hopis, are worth mimicking today. So my question to you is, what does the word mimicking mean as it is used in this sentence? So it says they are worth mimicking today. They have been proved by the test of time. The Pueblo have lived in those dry lands for at least 1,500 years. So do you guys know what that word means? Think of a mime. Or does this picture help you? They're mimicking each other. Yeah, so they're worth repeating. They're worth copying because they're proven to work. Good job. So it says down here, long ago, these people learned what crops would be planted in the land, could be planted in the lands that they called home. They learned how to bring water to their crops in dry years. They are able to preserve their food by drying it for storage. They are perfectly adapted to the deserts of the Southwest. They still plant fields of corn, beans, and squash. They still fashion jewelry using silver and turquoise. They also still weave baskets and form pots from clay. In many ways, the Pueblo people have maintained their ancient ways of life. So cool. And here they are, like, oh, these pictures are so cool. So he's making some jewelry. Wow. Look at that. He looks like he's got fire. Doing something with fire over there. Wow. Ooh, and now we're going to figure out how do they make this food in dry climate. So the Pueblo people today farm as their ancestors did. They dig deep holes with planting sticks. One seed goes in each hole, which may be 12 or 14 inches deep. The holes are deep so that the seeds may reach some ground moisture. The seeds are planted on slopes to catch whatever infrequent rain may fall. Sometimes a small mound of dirt is raised around each hole to catch rain. The Pueblos also build small dams across streams to catch water for irrigation. And this is a word we have over here to help us. It's the supply of water to land or crops to help it grow. Ancestors of the Pueblo harvested wild plants such as turnips and spinach, but their crops were mostly corn, beans, and squash. Still today, the Pueblo used several different colors of corn. Corn was their staple. Bread was baked in a hole in the ground that was covered with hot stones. One thing the Pueblos adopted from the Spanish was a round outdoor bread oven used by the whole village. Wow. Men and boys hunted for small game such as rabbits and ground squirrels. Only the men pursued larger animals such as deer, bison, and bighorn sheep. So over here it says they're unloading blue corn to be milled. Santa Ana Pueblo, New Mexico. So here's all that corn. Man, look at all the corn. It's all the different colors. It says harvesting carrots, and this is in New Mexico. And oh, this shows us how they built up the piles of dirt like they were talking about. And this is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, preparing land for planting native crops. Oh man, that was so cool. So how have the Pueblo people managed to thrive? So they're not just surviving, guys. They're doing really well. How have they done that in the desert since these ancient times? What things have they adapted to help them? This will show you one. Pause it here and think, how are they doing well? Yeah, you guys obviously have figured it out. They found a way to farm and create plants, like plant their stuff, and they used all these techniques to make them flourish and grow. Yeah, so there's so many details on here that could help us. They have the small mounds of dirt that are raised above each hole to catch the rain. They've made these dams to collect water for irrigation. They're just on top of it. And they even, over at the beginning, they built their apartments to stand on top of each other in the desert, which I bet that was probably hard to make. So they're doing a really good job. Man. Okay, so pause here for a second. Try and figure out what is the main idea of these 2 pages. So hopefully you took the time to pause and kind of look it over. One key thing Miss Lawson likes to do is if I'm not sure what the main idea is, I hope you didn't see that. It says, what's in a name? The Pueblo people. So it's focused obviously on the Pueblo people. And we start in 1540. So it was then, but then we also talk about once where they live now. So what it's doing is it's comparing this community, this Pueblo people from long ago and now. That's what these 2 pages are all about. So pause your screen, get that organizer drawn so you can complete it with me. All right, so what is the first thing we learned about the Pueblo people? So obviously they lived there before the Spanish discovered them, but that's the first real information we have about them. So in 1540, they found them when they were looking for gold. So the Spanish discovered that village and gave them their name in 1540. Now, the next piece of information is I want to tell them where they live. Where do they live? This is how they received their name. The Pueblo once lived, here it is, all across what is now New Mexico and Arizona, plus parts of southern Utah, southern Colorado, and northern Mexico and western Texas. So what I would put is the Pueblo lived in what is now New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Mexico, and Texas. They lived quite a bit of places, right? So get that written down so you can do this with me. Awesome. I hope you paused it like I did. Now what we need to focus on is where do they live now if we wanted to find them? It says right here, now they live mainly in New Mexico. So it says now they mainly live in New Mexico where they have different cultures. So I kind of didn't read as much as I should have. They have different cultures, but they share that same background. Their lifestyle and their religion is the same, even though they have different cultures. So remember, our skill that we're working on is that we can make this and then turn it into a summary where you can do the main idea, your 3 key details, and then if you wanted to restate that main idea, you could. But if you're doing a summary, that was how you would do it. Now for your reading response today, you're gonna go back to these pages. 38 and 39 was the picture of the farming. And you're gonna tell us, oh my goodness, I can't touch my screen. You're gonna go back to 38 and 39, and you're gonna find the main idea in at least 2 key details. You guys have been practicing this and you can do it. Don't get overwhelmed because it's a big table. You've got this. So main idea and 2 key details. See you guys next time. Bye.